Hello, you guys. It's Shanda Sumter, and I'm here with Marcus Bell, and you're on the Yeah, She's Driven podcast. And we are excited to really dive into some interesting conversation around your impact, around the meaning of life, around what it's to be a celebrity. Marcus, I'm going to ask a couple pieces around that as well, because you have a very interesting background that I think there's a lot of, there's just a lot of, you know, you look at Instagram, you look at TV, you look at radio, you look at all these different platforms, you look at TikTok, you look at all, it's kind of like the media is everywhere now, right? Like it's like literally have everybody has an opportunity to be a celebrity. And I think a lot of people chase fame versus actually, like, for us, we work with a lot of entrepreneurs, but it's like I always say, watch the conversation of chasing fame versus actually like looking at how do you create wealth in your life, or how do you create meaning in your life. And so you have an intimate connection with that, and so I'd love to dive into that. And before we do that, I would love to open up and just, first of all, welcome to the podcast.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm
It's
excited to have these kinds of conversations, conversations that have meaning.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you have such a soulful heart, and I really appreciate that about you. And I'm glad that we're going to be able to share you and your wisdom with this community. Could you share a little bit about your background, Marcus?
Yeah, sure. So my name is Marcus Bellringer Bell. I'm a hit songwriter, best-selling author, award-winning music producer, and I work with influencers and celebrity artists and community leaders and politicians, people that want to really make an impact with their lives and go from success to significance. And
Ah,
and I stand for dignity. I stand for compassion for myself and all human beings. And what I really care about is getting at some of the things that hold us back as a human community, right? So
yeah.
things like the isms, right? The racism and sexism and ageism. And so I'm committed to that, to having my life be a demonstration and representation of the values that I hold for humanity.
That's so good. So I'm doing a prophetic prayer over my life every morning and my family, and one of the pieces of it is really asking God to impart His wisdom inside of me, and to have our family be a walking advertisement of His power. And so I can sense there's so much depth to you, and I want to dive into it because it kind of feels a little bit like, you walked a possibly a my interpretation of being a celebrity songwriter, that world seems very different from the walk you're walking right now. Is that true? And
Yeah, so here's the thing about celebrity and fame. So there's a cultural narrative that it's a bad thing to stick your head out in the crowd. I know from my family background, there's this narrative of, okay, you know, you've accomplished all these things, but you want to don't talk too much about it. And I had to unlearn a lot of things that were actually just incorrect. Now it came from a protective place, right?
yeah,
But it's important for people to understand the value that you have to offer. And so one of the ways that gets expressed is through visibility. And so visibility and celebrity and fame, like it's very important for entrepreneurs or people that have something that they want to have spread, right? To be known. And so I work with a lot of people on unpacking that. Like what is does that really mean? It's not fame for fame's sake. It's
yeah,
fame for the sake of your mission in the world, right? The
yeah.
fame for what you can do with having a platform where people are able to listen and get the value that you have to offer, whether that's something that you created, whether that's a message that you have that you're delivering, whether that is a community that you're building, like that. So that's kind of how I look at celebrity.
No, there's power to that, but what I often hear is wanting that fame for the sake of having that fame. Like it's almost like a chase for power versus realizing like there's a self-worth in going, it's the next step is to be risking courageous to go at that level. And I'll be really like, open to your coaching on this as well, which I love being an open book for people. When I wanted to find my husband, I interviewed people, and I interviewed the most incredible people around finding love. And I let the world watch. And Marcus, I mean, I was shocked what I heard from these people because the coaching I got was some pretty direct coaching, And so I like opening up myself to this stuff because I think leading from vulnerability and transparency is powerful. As we've built our own platform here at Heartcore Business, one of the things that, like, my friend Randy Garn, I don't know if you know Randy Garn, he works with Brendan Burchard and Rachel Hollis, and he's just a really good man, and probably in the digital marketing space one of the people that a lot of people have a lot of respect for. He's good all the way through. And he's always like, Shanda, you fly under the radar. And my husband always says, you fly under the radar. Right. And I started this company. I said, I never want to be on the forefront. Well, now I know that I've got to go to the forefront. And it takes courage. I mean, I don't know if people realize to the level, there's a group that's chasing fame for power, but often don't get there. They spin their wheels. And then there's a group that are like, there's a responsibility. There's a responsibility to go to that next level, and it's uncomfortable. And I feel like you're the guy that helps people like me go to that level of celebrity, if you want to use that word, and impact the world, because it's so selfish not to.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes, yeah. So a couple of things about what you just said, and you're right. I work with a lot of people on this topic,
Yeah, I'm
right?
sure it's a big topic.
Yeah, yeah, and it's really, you mentioned self worth,
Yeah.
right? So there's understanding what the value is that you have to offer, and then there's the communication of that value. So like with your heart core, that's the name of your
Yeah.
company, right?
Yeah. Hardcore.
Yeah. So I love that name, right? So there's we could probably have a whole conversation just on hardcore, like, coming from the heart as like a core foundational place.
Yeah.
Well, what a great title to take on as it relates to your fame,
Mm,
right? So that there is coming from a heart space and not the ego space,
yeah.
right? And so as it relates to like value, right? So self-worth, like, oh, am I valuable? Do I contain enough value internally that I
Mm,
want to be seen?
that's
Because
good.
that value gets expressed in the marketplace, right? Because there are things that come with that, right? So there's going to be a percentage of people that are going to reject what it is that you have to offer, right? So some people have, fears around that. And actually, about 2% will be that way.
Interesting.
So if you know that 2% are not going to resonate with you at all, right? Right? Then when you see that, you know that, okay, well, there's the 2%. And so there's one of my mentors who deals a lot in systemic social change, right? So I've been studying with her for about 10 years around, systems change, right?
Yeah.
Cultural narratives and how to create impact from there. Well, her name's Dr. Monica Sharma, and I'm in her book actually on some of the things that I have been doing in the music industry. But she talks about how it only takes 15% to start to make a shift. So a
Ooh,
lot of times people are like, oh, I got to have 100% agreement. But you don't need 100% agreement. You need 15% to start to shift things. And it's kind of like a trim tab. Are you familiar with trim tabs?
mm-mm.
Yeah. So Buckminster Fuller used to talk about this a lot. And so what Bucky used to say is, what a trim tab is in the big ships.
Yeah.
It's a small device in a rudder, and that little trim tab device makes small adjustments, and that moves the entire ship,
Mm.
right? So it's not 100% that's moving the whole ship. It's this one
Yeah.
little thing that makes the biggest impact. And so if you are, looking through the lens of trim tabs, if you're looking through the lens of, well, I just need 15% of people to be on board my mission,
Changes your motivation, actually.
it changes everything. Then now it's like, okay, so what is the trim tab in my life? For some people, that is fame. For some people, what's going to make the biggest difference in their movement, in that big ship that they want to carry, is visibility.
First of all, this is like the thing I've been contending with. So everybody should have a paper and pen, and you should be asking yourself these questions and writing them down. Like as Marcus is talking, I'm writing it down, right? And it's like, when we feel stuck, or when we're like in a position where there's about to be an expansion. Like in my world right now, there's an expansion happening. There's a lot of prophetic people walking in the door. There's random people that don't know me calling me, like sharing the same prophecy. Do you know what I mean? And I've been waking up, Marcus. I like to have real conversations, and I know you do too. I've been waking up with a fear. And like I'm not the type of girl that shies down from growth. I mean, I've been in growth my whole life and I love it. But like there's a moment where it's like, do I really want to, which is about me, not about anybody else? And I'm aware of that. And so I'm saying yes to the expansion, but like I'm literally going to go do deliverance, right? I don't know if you know what deliverance is, but I'm literally going to go do deliverance because I feel like there could be a spirit of delay or a spirit of something on me because I'm waking for no reason. Anybody feel this way? You need to let us know, right? Comment, let us know. But I literally feel like I'll wake up in the morning like almost like this, and there's no reason. There's like no reason. And like, we have somebody shopping our book, The Blind Spot, but it's not like, we were talking to an agency that does TD Jakes and all these amazing people, secular and spiritual. And but I'm like, why isn't that moving? And then there's shifts happening inside the company. And so we're going to the place where you master, which is this ability to brand on this next level, right? And it's so much deeper than I think what people are recognizing. And I think I'm being forced to go deeper right now.
Yeah. So a couple of things about what you just said.
Please.
So I have a program called Wealth and Impact Bootcamp, right?
Yeah.
And Wealth and Impact Bootcamp is all about this. I have a lot of people that come into the program that are transitioning into their bigger big.
Yeah.
A friend of mine, Dan Burris, kind of coined that term, and I use that as what you think is big is just big, but it's not your bigger big. And
Mm,
so there's a tension between uh, your big and your bigger big. And um, and inside of that bigger big, there comes a lot of emotions, a lot of things come up, when it's time to transition to the next level, right? And a lot of people experience that, and it's like, okay, it's the enoughs, it's the, well, am I ready? Is it all of those types of things? And I look at it kind of like the build of a skyscraper. So what's required for you to be ready to really launch to an entire other level is to ask the questions that you're asking, right? It's to go deeper inside of your own development, right? Investing deeper in, like, okay, am I on mission? Am I on purpose? Am I creating something that is going to sustain not just in my lifetime, but something that's going to sustain beyond my lifetime? How do I multiply
Legacy.
the impact that I'm able to have? Like these types of considerations, when you start digging into that, now you're doing some skyscraping digging, right? Now you're digging into a place that allows for your skyscraper to go up. And so it's embracing the where you are. Really, it's embracing that, and uncovering, like, okay,
I just
well,
got shivers.
yeah, what is it? Because you can, when you embrace it, it becomes like the launch pad for it.
That's so good. Yeah, it's so mission and all of that is on point. I'm getting like for the first time in my life, like having to shut certain things down to allow that skyscraper to go.
So I have a question for you.
Yeah, go for it. This is so good. I hope you guys are loving this.
So what is the thing that you are doing in your mission that's going to impact trillions of people?
Well, that would definitely be prayer in what we're doing, to be really honest. I mean, we I mean, we help entrepreneurs do customer acquisition without paid advertisement. And we take a lot of people to give you an idea, Marcus. I mean, it's not odd for us to create a millionaire in 2 or 3 years and then go from there to multiple seven figures like in a year,
Mhm.
or this like somebody that was on food stamps like to six figures in 4 months, 5 months, and this is not income claims if anybody's listening to this. Um,
Right, right. I and
yeah,
and my
definitely not
program my
income.
programs do the same thing. So we're, because you,
Yeah,
you got to start there. Like,
yeah, yeah. So it's like so financially, Marcus, that is something that we know we hold the plan with
mm,
people, and
mm,
we give them the opportunity to lead that plan so that they're not codependent on me or codependent on anybody else, that now they can pick and choose who they want to work with or not, whatever. But something that really has been on our heart, that we've surveyed our audience multiple times, I did it again today before we jumped on this podcast, was, do you know when you've got a prayer and you're praying and praying or manifesting or meditating, whatever you call it, and it's not coming together? Well, a lot of people don't know that there's three heavens, and they don't know why certain prayers get stuck and don't come through. And so there's this huge demand and hunger in our audience to understand their identity, like their identity in God. Now, we're not a faith-based company. I am Christian, non-denominational, but we are not, that is not our company. But it's something that our audience is asking us to bring in. Like we even inside Heartcore, we have people who are Jewish, Catholic, non-denominational, Christian, and we have prayer groups every single week for our internal team to pray for each other.
mm.
Imagine now getting in contact with customer service when they feel supported, loved, prayed for, right? And so our audience wants us to do the same thing. So we have a very, very prophetic person coming in to start to build that out. And I like, it's like, what is it? Do you know what I mean? Like, as we're kind of releasing to this next scenario, it's like there's a new identity happening and being born. It's like we're growing up.
Yeah. Well, what I'm hearing is ministry.
Yeah. Without it being called ministry. But yes, I mean, there's an audience we reach that a church will never reach. Do you know what I mean? Because people
Yeah.
will not walk foot in that church,
Yeah.
right?
Ministry doesn't mean that you have to call yourself a minister,
Yeah,
right? So there's the context that you're operating from, which sounds to me like ministry. Now, that how you communicate that can be articulated through verbal communication or written communication, or it could just be felt,
right.
right? And so what it sounds like to me is you've created an environment where it's being felt, like
100.
people feel like they're being supported, and so when you are operating value on the level of spirit, then yes, that is the bigger big for your business, is to go into the spirit realm of your offer of value, I would assert.
Yeah,
So yeah. So a few things about, so we can have all kinds of conversations in different areas, because I was a minister of music when I was 9 years old. I've actually, as a musician, played for Presbyterian, Catholic, Baptist, Episcopalian. I mean,
so interesting.
whole Kojic churches, like, and I have, many friends that are ministers that have mega ministries and so forth. And you know, there are entrepreneurs that I work with. There are entertainers that I work with. There are preachers that I work with,
Yeah,
and I can hear in people's speaking their ministry. And if you're listening, there's a ministry inside of you that has to be uncovered. Now, it's not, now I'm not coming, Christian ministry or,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
denomination. I'm saying ministry as in one way of articulating value that you have inside of you, that you're used in the
yeah,
marketplace to deliver help for people that's greater than you,
that's right.
greater than you helping your bank account, helping your family, helping your business, greater than that, but creating the level of help that actually, you know, works on a spirit level inside of people. Like, that's a high level of value, and there comes a lot with that. And so with the a lot that comes with operating on that level of intention with what it is that you're creating, yes, digging deep is key.
So good. Marcus is so good. It's so good. I know people are listening and they're like, I know that they've got their ministry that they're working on. You know what I mean? And their mission and their messaging and all of that's connected. And it's like, I feel like this whole journey is like, if we're doing it right, there's a deeper level. There's just always a deeper level. You know what I mean? What's your next deeper level?
Ooh, my bigger big is shifting culture, shifting culture. These cultural narratives that have people trapped,
Mm,
freeing people from some of those cultural narratives, those beliefs that we've bought into, that actually are disempowering, that are actually creating traps in relationships, traps in economic possibility,
like something
trap.
specific. Give us something
So
specific.
yeah, sure. So for example, this narrative, this is a really easy one, and you'll hear this everywhere. So I like to look at metaphors, right? And so the metaphor, time is money, is one of those narratives that has people trapped. So I've studied a little bit of time philosophy, time psychology, time
Yeah.
geography. Uh, in this area. And I have a friend of mine who's a time philosopher. And so there are four different ways that people can relate to time. I've discovered a fifth one, and but the time is money actually falls into the time is numbers. And
Okay.
so where time is money came from is from the Industrial Revolution, where people are clocking in, and so corporations had to figure out a way to quantify work.
Yeah.
Well, if you're doing soul work, spirit work, if your offer of value is saving marriages or helping people's relationships or helping people become financially independent and all of that, well, time is money may not be the right place to be looking from. So so if you are looking at money as value, then now you're out of time as money. Now you're not valuing your time with, okay, I get paid, $75 an hour
Yeah.
or like that. If I were to talk about how much I get paid an hour based on what my enterprises are, you'd be like, what? You're how many thousands of dollars an hour?
Yeah. No, I get that.
Right. And then I look at friends of mine that are billionaires, that they have $1 million hours,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. I
So
mean,
yeah.
I've had $1 million hours, and it's like, I think it is a trap because, like I said, because I work with entrepreneurs predominantly,
Mm-hmm.
I'll say to them, like, you have to actually stop thinking that if you actually work, like, you got to work for sure, but like, more work doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to get paid more.
Right.
You
More
know,
value
exactly.
will have you get paid more.
That's right. That's
And
right.
and actually, and and if it's not the value, then it's the articulation of the value that'll get you paid more.
Yeah.
So
Can
this
you
this
give
yeah.
us a nugget with your branding background and what you mean with that? If somebody's like struggling on their conversation of even articulate, this is huge in
Yeah.
entrepreneurs, right? Like how do I articulate myself? Like, it's a branding conversation. Do you know what I mean? It's part of a branding conversation. So what advice would you give to someone that is like in that dialogue? So I'll say it. I'll say, Marcus, like, I know how to talk to someone one on one, but I don't, I can hear somebody saying this, but I don't know how to articulate it on social media or on my website or on my registration pages. Like, but one on one, like, people get me, but I can't articulate it out there. What would you say to them?
There um there's so much I can say. I have about 3 to 5 years worth of things to say
Right,
about
but
that.
like, but what would
Um,
you say would be their first step on
yeah,
getting through that so that they
yeah,
get unstuck?
yeah. I'm gonna answer the question. I just want to create the context that this is a very big
Big.
question, right? And so I wrote a book called The Bellringer Branding Bible. That's an access point to looking at articulation. Um, but what I would recommend for someone that's like, okay, you know what, I have to do something about this articulation of my value, and they may be able to do it one on one, which is great. And there's the opportunity for you to check in with people,
Mm.
right? So the first thing I would do, the low hanging fruit, is to get in conversations with everyone that you feel like has an inkling, whether it's a customer that has transacted with you, or is a part of your client base or customer base. If it's a family member that kind of knows you, that kind of likes you, even the one that doesn't like you, you
Yeah.
might want to talk to them too, because that'll give you some insights as well. Friends, so forth. And the question to ask would be, what value have you gotten out of our relationship? Now, if you ask that question, then that is an open door for what the world is perceiving as your value. And will
Mm.
give you insight as to whether or not that's something that you want to roll with in your communications,
Or
right?
change something.
Or you need to make a little tweak,
So good.
right? Maybe upgrade some things. And for example, I was looking at Bellringer. So my artist producer name is Bellringer, and every time I walk into a recording studio to work with an artist, whether it's a developing artist or a celebrity artist, I used to have this practice, and I still do. It's just kind of just part of me now. So I created this thing like, okay, so who am I being in this recording situation, right? So I'd say, okay, I'm going to be fun. I'm going to be flow, right? Because I want to get people into the flow state where they're no longer thinking about, okay, oh, what, how my voice cracked, or what are the lyrics, or did I hit the right note, or those types of things. Like I want to get them out of that. So I want to be flow so that they can also be flow with me, right?
Oh,
So
good. I
so
love this stuff.
so practicing the mirroring, right,
Yep.
that we as human beings do, right? So if I'm being that way, then it's a high likelihood that
Yep.
I'm conscious that they're going to align with my energy in the recording studio,
Yeah.
right, or in the environment, right? And so it's like, okay, so I'm going to be fun, I'm going to be flow, and I'm going to be unlimited creativity, right? And so I'd be in a recording studio as that, right? And maybe some other things depending upon the artist that I'm working with, right? And in the middle of the recording studio, they're like, "Oh my god, you're a genius! Oh my god!" And then all of a sudden, I've never done that before. I've never sang that note before. I haven't sounded this great before. I haven't, right? Because, and then what they're articulating is, wow, like I haven't worked that fast before,
Yeah.
right? Because they achieve a flow state. So if you are creating yourself to hold a particular value inside of your offer, then you start to get feedback that says, okay, yeah, that you, if you're listening for it, you will get feedback that lets you know that your intention got fulfilled.
So good. Marcus, that's like one of the best things that we can end this podcast on. It's so good and inspires me to have further conversations with you about connecting with some of our audience in a more deeper level around this because even like how do you ask for testimonials? How do you like all of these things? This leadership is just key to being able to just collapse years of
Yeah.
struggling and running down the wrong roads as hard as you can to try and get up the hill versus just go directly up it. So I just want to say thank you for being a part of Yashi's Driven podcast. We could go on forever. We're going to add some information below in our podcast to connect with your, is it Impact? What's
Yeah.
your,
So there's Wealth and Impact Bootcamp, and then there's the 100 Days Impact Challenge, which people can join with
okay,
Wealth and
let's
Impact
do that.
Bootcamp. Yeah, yeah,
Let's do that. That's powerful. I mean, to work on something for 100 days like that would be really influential. So, you guys, if you're loving what we're talking about right now, I'm a huge fan. One of the pieces of the legacy that I'm intentional about leaving on this planet is to continue to rise up already people who are risen and to that next level. And so I really get a lot out of that. It really drives me. And so if you love the Ashes Driven podcast, love our challenges that we do out there, events you do out there, then I encourage you to go in the show notes of this interview with Marcus and grab his 100 day. What's it called? 100 days.
Impact Challenge. So they can just go to 100 days with a Z, 2021 or 2022 or 20, whenever they're hearing this.
Right, right. I'm gonna put the links below, but
Okay.
there's power to jumping on and doing stuff like that. So I'm gonna continue to get to know Marcus even more, you guys, as you're listening to this. And if you want to, then go ahead and click that link in the show notes and get connected with him. Obviously, we've only scratched we've barely scratched the surface of what this man can do in your life, in our lives, in the lives of the many, many millions of people that are waiting to discover you. And my plea for you is to have the courage to step up. All right, you guys. Any final last words, Marcus?
Go for your bigger big.
So
You
good.
can
So,
make an impact. Your ministry is inside of you. Embrace it and become visible because the world needs you to.
so good. Take that to the bank. All right, you guys. So much love.
Much
Talk to
love.
you soon.